Mia and Benjamin had occupied a window table at a quaint cafe for well over an hour, untouched cups of coffee before them. Instead of sipping their beverages, their gaze remained fixed on the scene outside. Mia, fatigued and self-critical, regretted letting her friend rope her into this situation. A mountain of pressing work awaited her attention, and their fruitless wait was exasperating. It was all because Benjamin had claimed that Mia's husband was involved with a younger woman, and now they sat in front of Alexander's workplace, attempting to catch him in the act. Mia couldn't quite fathom the necessity of it all, but Benjamin was unwavering in his determination. After another agonizing 10-minute wait, Mia decided it was time to depart. She had risen from her seat when Benjamin abruptly gripped her sleeve and directed her gaze towards the street. There, emerging from the office building, was Alexander, Mia's husband, accompanied by an enchanting raven-haired woman in a short skirt. A cheerful exchange unfolded between them, and Alexander gallantly opened the car door of a sleek black limousine, freshly polished to a shine. The couple was whisked away into the unknown, leaving Benjamin elated. He felt gratified for opening his friend's eyes to the truth, but Mia found no amusement in the situation. Despite Benjamin's attempts to offer solace, Mia was overwhelmed with distress, her eyes brimming with tears. She couldn't bear to stay any longer. After a reserved farewell, she hurried away from the cafe. Stepping out into the street, Mia shivered in the cold. The icy grip of autumn's breeze cut through her, and she pulled her coat's collar snugly around her neck. As the taxi carried her homeward, the woman struggled to contain her tears, but they betrayed her resolve, tracing a path down her cheeks. Her mind played and replayed the recent events, emphasizing the fragility of happiness, how it could slip away in the blink of an eye. She had heard countless tales of betrayal, divorce, and scandal from friends, never imagining she'd find herself ensnared in such a predicament. Alexander, the man who had been her closest confidant and the epitome of trustworthiness, had never given her cause for jealousy. Mia often marveled at her remarkable journey, from growing up in an orphanage to achieving everything on her own. Her exceptional aptitude for mathematics had been evident since school, where she effortlessly tackled complex equations while others grappled with fractions. She pursued higher education directly and graduated with distinction. Shortly thereafter, she secured a coveted analyst position at a prestigious firm, where fate led her to cross paths with her future husband. Mia still couldn't comprehend why the handsome Alexander, born into privilege, had been drawn to her. Yet, after a year of courtship, he proposed. His affluent parents, naturally, disapproved of their son marrying a woman from an orphanage. His mother even attempted to dissuade him, asserting that Mia only sought to bear his child and live extravagantly at his expense. Yet Alexander remained steadfast, refusing to heed his mother's warnings. Their wedding came to pass, and the young couple embarked on a blissful journey together. Contrary to Alexander's mother's dire predictions, a decade of marriage passed without the pitter-patter of little feet. Mia exhaustively explored various avenues and consulted numerous doctors, only to receive the heartbreaking diagnosis of infertility. Since then, Mia's primary focus had been caring for her husband. However, today marked a turning point. As she drove home, thoughts swirled in her mind, pondering what lay ahead in her life. Upon entering their home, Mia's spirits lifted slightly, and she resolved to prepare a delectable dinner, envisioning Alexander's return. She pictured them sitting at the table, engaged in a calm and reassuring conversation. She reminded herself that she shouldn't have placed her faith in Benjamin's claims. Perhaps it would transpire that there was no affair at all, just a colleague from work. Mia's mood brightened considerably as she surveyed the beautifully arranged table, wondering why her husband was taking so long. Her anticipation even led her to the window, But Alexander was nowhere in sight. Instead, a dish-filled man in worn-out attire and tattered boots sat slouched on a bench nearby, head bowed. It was a dreary November day, rain falling outside, and Mia, filled with compassion for the destitute soul, hastily donned her jacket, grabbed an umbrella, and ventured out into the street. "You'll get drenched and freeze out here with nowhere to go. Come to my place. At least have some tea and warm up a bit," she kindly offered to the stranger. The man gazed at her in astonishment but complied, trailing her into the apartment. Now Mia could finally see the stranger's face and was taken aback. It was Hugh, a former classmate and friend from their youth, once an ardent admirer of hers. "Hugh, is that you?" "What a surprising encounter," Mia exclaimed, enveloping the clearly bewildered man in a warm hug. "I don't remember you." "I don't remember anything," the man mumbled, clearly disoriented. However, Mia paid no heed to his words. She regarded her childhood friend with a sense of nostalgia, recalling how he had earnestly tried to win her affection during their school days, gifting her bouquets of amelias, carrying her school bag, all while she remained preoccupied with her studies and college preparations. When he had attempted to kiss her at their graduation, she had evaded his embrace and laughed it off. Since then, their paths had diverged, and this unexpected reunion felt truly remarkable to Mia. She couldn't help but reflect on how the lives of orphanage graduates often faced uphill battles. Many struggled to ascend socially and adapt to the unforgiving realities of life without the support of family. In the government-provided shelter, he had spiraled into heavy drinking, eventually finding himself destitute on the streets. It was likely that her former schoolmate had endured a similar fate, but Mia remembered him as a genuinely kind and good-hearted person. She served her unexpected guest a warm meal and brewed a soothing cup of tea. "Hugh, don't you remember me at all?" she inquired. The man shook his head, his memory a foggy abyss. "I woke up in a roadside ditch, nearly unclothed. Some compassionate homeless individuals found me there, brought me to their makeshift shelter, warmed me up, and shared their clothes. But I have no recollection of who I am or where I came from." Mia longed to recount their shared school days to Hugh, but was abruptly interrupted by the mocking, inebriated voice of her husband echoing from above. "Oh, how convenient. Wife, while I'm out earning money, you and your lover are having a grand time. Only a decent lover couldn't be found. Who would even glance your way? Probably only vagabonds." This was a side of Alexander Mia had never seen before. She trembled with fear at the thought of her drunken husband swaying and ranting, hurling insults at her, unsure of how to respond. Meanwhile, Alexander hastily packed a suitcase, muttered a bitter farewell through clenched teeth, and stormed out, slamming the front door behind him. Mia, overwhelmed with tears, vented her frustrations onto Hugh, wrongly blaming him for her husband's departure, and motioned for him to leave. Hugh departed silently, retreating to the bench once more. As Mia's emotions settled, a deep sense of shame washed over her for her harsh treatment of the man she had invited in, only to forcibly expel him. With a heavy heart, she ventured outside again, but her destination remained uncertain. The biting cold of the night pressed upon her, and she was left grappling with the harsh reality of her circumstances. "Please forgive me. Let's go inside. It's bitterly cold," Mia implored, but the man offered no reply. He trembled uncontrollably, and it dawned on Mia that he was suffering from a high fever. Gently, she assisted him to his feet and guided him back to her apartment, tucking him into her bed. When Mia checked his temperature, her heart sank with dread. He thrashed about in fevered delirium. Mia remained vigilant at his bedside throughout the night, diligently changing damp cloths, administering medicine, and wrestling with her own despair. She clasped the man's hand and began to pray fervently. 4 agonizing days passed, during which she never faltered in her care. Finally, Hugh opened his eyes, gazing up at the woman who had tirelessly tended to him. In a faint, weakened voice, he whispered, "Mia, my dear, is that you? Did you truly remember me?" Mia's heart soared with joy as she replied, "Hugh, it's me." The once ailing man was now on the path to recovery, and most remarkably, his memory had returned, perhaps triggered by the severity of his illness. Ha proceeded to recount his story. "After you declined my advances at the prom," he began, "I made a solemn vow to myself to achieve great success in life, to find you, and to make you mine." Over the years, he indeed became a prosperous businessman, but never married. Then one fateful day during a business trip to a nearby city, he decided to offer a ride to a hitchhiker, believing he had encountered a young couple in love. However, it turned out to be a ruse, as the hitchhiker was a criminal who brutally assaulted him, stole all his possessions, documents, and car, and left him abandoned in a desolate ravine, devoid of compassion or remorse. There he was discovered by homeless individuals, half-dressed and devoid of any memories from his former life. Yet he couldn't resign himself to a life among vagrants. Something within his subconscious refused to accept such an existence. Hugh wandered the city, desperately attempting to piece together fragments of his past, until Mia stumbled upon him in that vulnerable state. "Perhaps it's your destiny," Hugh queried, his gaze locked onto his rescuer's eyes. Maya responded contemplatively, "Maybe so." With Hugh's strength gradually returning, he set out to attend to his affairs, leaving Mia to await his return. As time passed, she noticed a curious change within herself. She no longer pined for Alexander, her estranged husband. Their loveless marriage had never held any genuine affection. It had become evident to her that if their connection could dissolve so easily and swiftly, she had been ensnared in a deceptive mindset by Alexander. When he inquired, "So, where's your tramp? Has he abandoned you, Leia?" she realized that her husband's words no longer held power over her. She responded with newfound clarity, "I may have said too much the other day. It happens, but you're also aware. All right, I forgive you. Let's start afresh." Mia regarded her husband with fresh eyes, as if she had removed the rose-colored glasses through which she had previously viewed him. "You forgive me?" she queried. "What's happened? Has your young lover moved on to another man, or found no one to tend to your needs? Do your laundry or cook for you? Or perhaps your mother won't permit you to divorce? No, dear, that won't work. Leave Alexander." With a furious lunge, Alexander advanced on Mia, shoving her aside and raising his hand for another strike. Mia's terrified scream pierced the air, but before Alexander could land a second blow, his arm was seized by Hugh, who had silently entered the apartment unnoticed. In one swift motion, Hugh hurled Alexander aside, causing him to crash into the wall before slinking away in shame. With relief washing over her, Mia found herself enveloped in Hugh's comforting embrace. He inquired about her well-being, and she assured him that she was now safe and sound. Indeed, she was more than okay. Hugh brought Mia to his hometown, where they held a modest wedding ceremony, attended only by those nearest and dearest to them. Extravagant luxury held no significance. Love and loyalty between two people were what truly mattered. 2 years later, against all medical odds, the couple welcomed a healthy and robust baby boy into their lives, becoming the happiest parents in the world. Thank you for being part of our storytelling family. We'll see you in the next story.